Hello, I'm Peter Friedman, Chairman and CEO of LiveWorld, and this is Faces of Pharma. Joining us today is Ajit Baid from UCB. Hi Ajit, thanks for joining us.
Hello, it's my pleasure to be here.
Great. Why don't we start today by your telling us a little bit about your current role and your current company, UCB.
I'm the Global Commercial Strategy Lead for Rare Disease Assets at UCB. I'm part of the Rare Disease Organization, where we are developing innovative products for the treatment of rare diseases currently in neurology.
So a rare disease is a disease that not as many people have, or there's something unusual about it.
The patient populations are very, very small, so there could be a rare disease and there could be an ultra rare disease. When I was at Alexion and I was dealing in a couple of different three rare diseases. One was called PNH, which is paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, where your blood cells lyse. Patients can die of thrombosis, and there were about 5,000 patients in the US. I can tell you, in most of the rare diseases, the biggest problem is educating the physicians diagnose this disease. Like the disease I was talking about before, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. This is treated by hematologists. And the primary symptom, if a patient would have, is low hemoglobin, fatigue, a bad quality of life. And if you go to a hematologist and say, hey, these are your patients, these are the symptoms, the physician would say, every patient who comes to me has got blood issues.
Well, this is fascinating. We're going to come back to this. Now let's come back to you.
So I was born in India. My dad is an engineer. And we packed our bags and moved every 2 to 3 years. I finished my undergrad in math, science, and physics from the northern part of India, from Punjab University. And then after that, I did my master's in business administration. And then I worked in sales for 1 year, which is a non-pharmaceutical, in direct sales. And then I got into the pharma industry.
Well, on your path to all this, you worked in sales, and it wasn't good in pharma. And do you have any other kinds of jobs before the pharma stuff, or particular hobbies or passions?
So I'm a health nut. I'm very, very conscious about my health. I'm an avid road biker. I clock in about 2,000 to 2,500 miles a year. I like to read philosophy, also a lot about religion.
We've just kind of come out of a pandemic in the last couple of years. I'm wondering, were you able to road bike during the pandemic?
I did, actually. Sometimes with the masks. But other times without the mask. But yeah, I was able to do that.
Speaking of the pandemic, what do you think are the challenges that the industry or the rare disease part of the industry is facing coming out of the pandemic?
But I think with pandemic, we had to innovate very, very quickly. We had to find solutions to reach out to our customers in a virtual environment. And so I think the challenges were, how do you reach your customers? How do you educate them? How do you leverage data? How do you leverage machine learning, artificial intelligence? Of course, there is an impact, but it was not as severe as you would anticipate in the rare disease markets.
First, there's this challenge of all the ways you traditionally would have communicated or educated about it have gone away. And then I expect a number of these constituencies you just talked about, the hospitals, doctors, they're consumed by COVID. How has your job or the jobs you had, how have they changed?
Digital and virtual channels were a check mark before for many of the pharmaceutical and biopharma companies. It's no longer a check mark. It's a viable alternative because it has been successfully deployed now over the past couple of years and with results. And this is what the future holds. Maybe we could use artificial intelligence or the claims data or electronic health records and collect that data and be more targeted through digital means.
It sounds like there's a mentality reset we can think about things differently. We can think about what's possible uh, in ways of doing things instead of like tuning what we were doing. So that's a very big shift.
Very big shift. We have so much data. I'm saying not essentially to use everything for commercial purposes, but to either drive the decisions, make treatments more affordable. With a rare disease patient, if a patient is somewhere in this world struggling and trying to search those symptoms, can we leverage that data and help that patient, get diagnosed sooner?
So now, because of the pandemic, and you're thinking what's possible, the opportunity to reach anybody anywhere or do it differently is suddenly front and center. And it's interesting because the pharma industry, on the one hand, is like one of the most innovative industries in the world. And it's also been a pretty slow and kind of traditionally kind of corporate rigid. So the pandemic may have broken the slow corporate rigid and is allowing the innovation. It sounds like you've developed quite a bit of depth in particular things. And then as you're moving through your career now, you're kind of broadening it out to applying to other different areas. Here you are, you're this kid growing up in India, your father's an engineer, you're moving, you go to all these schools. None of this has anything to do with healthcare or pharma. You're out there road biking or doing something that's going to lead to it. You like reading, numbers must be interesting to you. You get out of graduate school, now you're a sales guy. Okay, somewhere between there and now, you changed course. You came into healthcare and pharma. How did that come to happen?
It really happened by chance. I took my first job, and after that, I was looking for which company better reputation can give me more money, and then that's how I got into healthcare. Once I started getting into the science and the biology, I got an opportunity to work for in the area of chronic diseases, which is cardiovascular. I got really very, very fascinated by the heart. We went to the hospitals, I watched some open heart surgeries, I watched these heart and lung machines, and it was like so fascinating to me. Oh my gosh, how does this even work? And when I saw all that, and then my dad was not a heart patient that time, but he had high cholesterol, and actually I looked at his blood report and I'm like, holy crap, I mean, Dad, you're not very far from a heart attack. And, unfortunately, he did suffer a heart attack in 2 weeks. And I really recognized how important this is, where I'm not even a doctor, but, this work is really important. So that was, very, very early on, I found real passion, because my first job was selling photocopiers and fax machine, and that was like no passion for that. But this was real purpose, real intellectual discussion, real science.
And then this thing happens with your father, and that changed it. Tell me more about that. How you felt.
It was very personal, because you felt you could guide somebody, explain things to somebody, but that time, be able to translate that information, which is clinical information, and be able to explain, hey Dad, this is actually how the heart works. There is a huge opportunity for people in the pharmaceutical industry to educate without any commercial interest.
So that's sort of some inspiration for you in this whole career track. Anything else, or other people or events that inspired you find inspiring in what you're doing?
Absolutely. And when you listen to these patient stories and what they go through, it's heart-wrenching. So I remember I was developing products for ulcerative colitis, and what patients go through and what kind of a quality of life they have. And at least I personally feel, and I know many of my colleagues feel, a sense of responsibility. And it really gives you a purpose of what you're trying to do. I just feel like my passion is making somebody's life better, a small part.
Yeah, there's something to be said for the higher value of healing somebody or saving their life. So if you were advising somebody just coming in as a worker in the pharmaceutical industry, what would be your advice to someone starting out?
The industry is changing very rapidly. I think if somebody's joining or entering the workforce in the pharmaceutical industry, my recommendation would be try to rotate and learn different functions as quickly as they can.
Well, those are really good ideas and a fascinating discussion. Ajit Baid, marketeer, strategist, expert in rare diseases, but he's also a son, a father, a road biker, and a volunteer. And if I got it all right, he's got two mantras for you all. On the feeling side, you have to feel that you truly, truly care about the patients. And on the mental side, you have to think what's possible. Thanks very much, Ajit. That was really interesting.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.